What up, players? It's Wallboss Tay up in this mud. Happy New Year to you and yours. Let me show you what we do today. First, we painted some shading to Festus's skin, and we did that with Flesh Shade, I'm sorry. Seraphim Sepia and Coelia Green Shade. Seraphim Sepia is here. Next, we took Drakenhof Nightshade and we shaded up Archie. Then we took some Agrax Earthshade and we shaded in all of the backpack areas and all of the bones and disgusting stuff at the top. We took some Flesh Shade and shaded up all the bits like this body here at the top, the leg, anything that looks like it's supposed to be healthy skin, this poor guy's head. And let's see what else we did. We also painted Agrax Earthshade into the folds of this guy's robe to make it look a little bit dirtier. Then, we painted in all these little vials. So the color you're going to need for that is the Fang. I think I said Dark Reaper first, but then I eventually went back and changed it to the Fang, so that should look pretty good. We did Lead Belcher on all the metal on the backpack. And then after we did that, we let all the shades start to dry, and then we went to work on the staff. The areas of the staff we haven't done yet. We used Rakarth Flesh for all the skull bone colors, yada yada yada. We used some Xandri Dust for all these ties to make them lighter than the Steel Legion Drab wood. So anything that's tying and holding the skulls down, that's what we're using. And then for the scrolls that are hanging down here, we base coated in Celestra Gray. So the staff still has to be done, finished, completed, and shaded, but the rest of the model is drying nicely. So in the next video we are going to continue painting, shading, highlighting everything, but this is about what he looks like right now at the end of step 2. So thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoy the video, and we'll see you in the next one. Alright, let's get started with our Dr. Festus Part 2. First thing we're going to do is we're going to do some shades for all of the things that we've already done, and that will, while we're waiting for that to dry, then we can get to work on the pieces that we haven't finished yet, like on the staff. So, first thing we're going to do is we are going to give our good friend Dr. Festus a liberal coating of Seraphim Sepia. And this is going to go on his skin. And try to keep it as even as possible. And what you'll notice is the Seraphim Sepia is very sickly compared to like Flesh Shade. Has a healthier shade tone to it when applied over Rakarth Flesh. Rakarth Flesh is already a paler color for the skin, as opposed to like Cadian Flesh Tone, or say if you're base coating, then Bugman's Glow, stuff like that. If you're using this for skin like we are with Dr. Festus, then the Rakarth Flesh is a much more sickly, pale base coat, which is really going to work for us really well. Cover his face now. Oh, look at that face. The face only Papa Nurgle could love. And with these shades, you want to make sure you do not let it pool in the resources, or else it's gonna gum up all the detail as it dries. So we are just going to keep the brush moving after you get the shade onto the area. You keep the brush moving around so that it moves the shade around, spreads it out evenly. We get something like that. And when you're painting it on, you also want to make sure that you are able to get some of that paint into the areas where the skin meets other materials, like his apron, the little vial that he's holding. That way it'll make a nice little shadow there where all the materials meet. I'm gonna get all the different angles, so when you're coming around here and there's that giant leech over his right leg, you get in nice and as close as you can. Like that. See his left leg has a whole lot of really great detail and texture to it, so just make sure you get enough Seraphim Sepia all over it. Right, now while that is still semi-wet, you are going to take some Coelia green shade and paint this over the body as well. Now, Coelia green shade can be very, very dark if you put enough on, so we don't want too much. We want to still be able to see the Seraphim Sepia underneath, so try not to get too much on your brush. I think I put too much on his left arm there. Another option, if you want to go lighter than this, I kind of think this is a good green, but if you want to go lighter, there's BL Tan green. There's also Athonian Camo shade, which is a nice pale green as well. So any of these will work. I've decided to go for this darker green just to make Festus pop, or the skin tone pop a little bit more when we highlight it back up. But it's a little bit darker than the Games Workshop color scheme, so it's really, you know, up to you, depending on what style you want to go with. I also think that this darker shade is much more suitable for the Warhammer Grim Dark. And like, look how disgusting that looks. To his legs now. I spread it all around. There's this little gap between the left leg and the front where you're gonna need to get your brush in there, in between the body of his little experiment and his left leg. It should work well though, if you just stab your brush in like I did. Okay. And there we are. That's fairly disgusting looking. Perfect for us. So we're gonna let that dry. While that's drying, we're gonna take Drakenhof Nightshade and we are going to give Archie a little bath. Just like the Coelia green shade, the Drakenhof Nightshade is a very dark color, so we stick to the recesses. We only lightly apply it over the larger surface areas because we're going to be coming back and highlighting those in just a little while. What we really want is like where this leg is meeting his left arm, where he's sitting like right under his bottom on this wooden platform. Those are the areas we want the shade to kind of accumulate in. Everything else, like all this surface area on his back, you can just lightly apply. Okay, so your Archie should look a little bit something like this. Okay, next step in the shading process is we're going to take some okay, I had to go off and find it. We're going to take Rakelin Flesh Shade now, and we are going to paint all of the skin areas. Now, when you see most of the examples of this model, like on Games Workshop's website, Cool Mini or not, different, even like the White Dwarf, you'll see that the skin tones for most of these, like this guy in the back here, or the guy in the front, are very, very sickly pale, as if they've been decaying for a while. And while that's good and that's fine, the way I'm going to paint it is a little bit more as if Festus's one of Festus's blessings by Nurgle is that his experiments stay somewhat alive and fresh and vibrant. So while Nurgle is the god of decay, I think that in this iteration, one of the ironic blessings he's given to Dr. Festus is that he has allowed the skin, at least, of his subjects to remain alive and vibrant and healthy, ironically, so that Festus can experiment with all of his new plagues and sicknesses and diseases to see how it affects the skin. Then he'll like put it on the skin, it'll decay, it'll burn away, it'll be disgusting, and then at the end of the day, Nurgle allows the skin to regenerate, reform, nice and healthy for the next day's experiments. I think that's pretty fluffy, interesting, and it allows me to keep the skin tones vibrant and healthy, whereas most of the time you see a Nurgle model, you see their skin is green, sickly, death-like, kind of like Festus's skin himself. Go and look at Festus's. Those shades are drying really nicely. I'm also going to shade this little fellow down here, just his head, because that's the only part of his body that still has skin left. And I want to spread it out. I've noticed with these shades, more often than not, if you add a little bit of water to it, like after you dip your brush into the pot of shade, if you dip just the tip of it into your paint water, then it'll go on more smoothly. Like Drakenhof Nightshade is such a thick, dark color that if you apply it like right to Archie, it'll be really pretty dark. But because I cut it with some water, it seems to be drying nicely and not too darkly. Alright, next we're going to take Agrax Earthshade, and this is going to go onto all of these pieces back here in the backpack. Bones, guts, different things. No matter what they are, we're going to give it a shade so that we can tell where the difference is between the different materials back here. Like you've got skulls, you've got bones, you've got other pieces of detritus. The Agrax Earthshade is going to help us differentiate what they all are. Also, you're going to be painting the Agrax Earthshade into the skull, onto any bone pieces that happen to be laying around. It'll help us when we're highlighting in just a little bit. You're actually going to take your Agrax Earthshade and just paint the whole area of the backpack with it. The metal, the wood paneling, the instruments like the butcher knives, everything. All of that is going to get a nice covering of Agrax Earthshade. And then when that dries, we'll be able to separate the different materials, like the blades on our butcher knives. The wood paneling will give some highlighting to the metal, and should all look pretty nice. Sorry. Keep in focus, Igor, please. Yes, monster. Alright, that should do it for now. We're going to let that dry, come back to that. We're also going to put that Agrax Earthshade on the assistant here, or not the assistant, but the experiment, his hands, his robe, and all of his intestines spilling out here at the bottom half of his face, which is melted away into his bone skull. And there, you're also going to take your Agrax Earthshade and paint up the should we get into stuff? No, the robes of this guy. We're just about done. We're gonna let that dry. While that's drying, we are going to continue on with the rest of the staff. So I'm gonna go grab my colors for that, and when we pick back up, we will start with the rest of the staff, and then we can do some highlights on all of that. So while the shades are drying, we are going to start by painting the vials. Now the vials, we're going to start with Dark Reaper. There was a fantastic painting guide in the old, we see it, I'm saying old, but they're not even that old, White Dwarfs, where in like the heavy metal painting sections that they kind of used a very cool method of painting any glass vials and making it look like reflective, and how to make it look like there's liquid inside them. So they started with shadow gray, and I actually wonder if, okay, maybe Dark Reaper is not a good enough color. Hold on. The Fang. Let's see if the Fang is a better color. Yeah, okay, so we're gonna use the Fang. It's a base color. It's very similar to the old shadow gray. And we are going to just paint anything that is glass. All these beakers and whatnot. So he's got a little vial here by his left hip. Paint that. We've got he's got a couple beakers here on his right hip. And Is there any more? I think I saw one more. There is, here we go, one more on his backpack. Just want to be careful with these, especially if you have just slathered wash, like Agrax Earthshades on as a wash. Alright, we're gonna let that dry for a second. What else do we have to do? We're gonna take some lead belcher now, and we're going to paint in the metal bits on the backpack that have been painted over. So like here, here on the knife, here on this little cleaver thing. What a beautiful model. Festus is such a good looking model. Just have to do him justice. So all the metal pieces should now be painted in. We're gonna let that dry, and we're gonna go up to his staff. Now we're gonna take Celestia Gray and we're gonna paint in there's supposed to be scrolls. To me, something that I think might be interesting is I'm gonna make them, there's like writing on them, so I don't know what they're supposed to be, but in my head, and the way I'm going to justify them, is I'm going to say these scrolls are recipe papers, that he's writing down all the recipes of his devious plagues and poisons, sicknesses that he's making. There's a lot going on up here, so don't worry if you have to take a second or two to figure it all out. A lot of these angles for the paper, for the skulls, ties, all of it is kind of disconcerting. Okay, we're gonna take Xandri dust now. We're gonna paint the little strings on the staff. The strings are holding these skulls there, so it's holding everything in place. It's going to be a little bit lighter than your than the wood of the staff, which is, I believe we did it in Steel Legion Drab. This should be, Xandri dust should be a little bit lighter, and it'll make a nice contrast. Just remember to paint all of the string tie things with Xandri dust. Here at the front, and all the string ties in place. And the little ties, don't forget the last thing is that they all go down to these skulls that are hanging from the staff. So I'm going to paint anywhere you see these ties coming down to wrap around the skulls. There you go, so you see what I did there? On the left and on the right, they have strings that go into their eyes, and in the back as well. So we're just taking the paint that's on the flat side of the brush, we're painting those on. Yeah, and all these are small details that you'll find once the shades have been applied, really the focus isn't as much on these pieces back here. This is a small skull here, so I'm going to paint it in rack art flesh on the right side of the staff. If you could see right, let's get in focus please, right there. It's like a small little bird skull. Or a small little animal skull. This looks like a small little bird skull down here. And I think some of these are bags, and some of these are vials. So this baggie here, I'm going to paint in Steel Legion Drab, just like the staff. You've got you've got a bag here, which we're going to paint in Steel Legion Drab. And then is that a bag too? Yeah, that looks like a bag too. So all these are going to be like little cloth or leather bags where he keeps all of his ingredients. He's got his own little workshop, mobile workshop that goes with him. So there we go. We're gonna take a little break today, and that's all we're gonna do for this video. And next what we're going to do is we are going to add some shades and highlights to the staff, everything here in the staff, and start to begin highlighting and adding detail to everything here on this side. One more thing that we can do before we go is we're going to take XV88, and we are going to paint in Archibald's eye. So we can start painting his yellow eye. Yeah, we might change it, but just to make it look different for now, that'll be fun. Alright, thanks for watching everybody. See you in the next one.